What is up, everybody? Welcome another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders, archived on our podcast feed and streamed live on YouTube. However you're checking us out, we do appreciate you watching. And we've got another week of DFS golf this week. That's why we're here. So Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84, I will be your host of the show as usual. I got my good buddy Notorious Derek Farnsworth beside me. Noto doesn't have anything to do this time of year. It's a quiet time for him, so he's got plenty of time to come chat some golf. So Noto, how's your free time looking?
Yeah, not a lot of free time and definitely not a lot of quiet time. My little one, it's fall break for him. So he's at home with me all day, every day this week while NBA is starting. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Patience is being tested. You could say that.
Well, you got a little easy break in with the 2-game Tuesday nighter. I'm sure that the Wednesday night massive slate for the second day of the season will be a blast for you. But you burn the midnight oil and get a head start on some of that tonight, right?
Yeah, that'll definitely be happening tonight. I don't think I could crank that many out tomorrow. So, but luckily all the golf content's up, and we actually get some golf tomorrow night, right?
Yeah, Wednesday night. So the Asian swing is back for the first time in a couple of years. So be careful if you are one to normally reserve dummy lineups and then change them later. You don't want to do that this week unless you're going to be changing them, ASAP. Because the contest lock time, I believe, is around 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday night in the States. So that'd be like mid-afternoon, mid to late afternoon Pacific time. So be careful. If you're setting your golf lineups this week, make sure you get them in on time and take care that you're not, running a lineup that you don't want to have. So that is definitely a change with this swing and the tournament starting on Wednesday evening. Looking back real quick at last week's tournament, we had a birdie fest as expected. I don't think that I expected it to play quite as easy as it did for the CJ Cup at Summit. It was just, it was crazy how low the scoring was, and it was still, competitive. Like you look at the winning score, 25 under par. Yeah, well, we see that type of score a lot on the PGA Tour these days, but you think you have a good week. Like Cameron Tringale goes out there, shoots 10 under over 4 days, and he's 59th out of 77 golfers at the end of the week. Like 10 under, double digits under par, 59th out of 77. So that was crazy. I've never seen that quite as, as bunched as we had last week, and basically turned it into something of a crapshoot for lack of a better term. But I don't really know if there's a whole lot we could take away from that tournament, to be honest.
Yeah, for a while there, I was thinking they were playing two different courses, and all my golfers were playing the tougher course for all 4 days. My guys were, sitting at 10 under par range, and everyone else was going out making birdies in bunches. It's easy when Keith Mitchell goes out and shoots 18 under par in the first 2 days. That was pretty wild, and then he wasn't even in the mix on Sunday, but I think the big story's got to be Ricky Fowler. He had a chance. He was there. He ended up taking the penalty on the par 5 on the front 9. And then after that, he just missed so many putts, but it was good to see him in contention. It felt good that at least we didn't miss out on him after playing him so much all these years. But golf's in a better place when he's playing well. And then obviously Rory Mcilroy with that great finish. Morikawa put a lot of pressure on him by making eagle on the 18th, but I think Rory eagled the other par 5 on the back 9 at the exact same time that Morikawa eagled the 18th. So he didn't really need to do much down the stretch and kind of played it safe there on the last couple holes.
Well, one of the par 5s, Rory went eagle, birdie, eagle for the week, 7 under in 4 days. That's not too shabby. So I ended up winning by 1 there, and like you say, was able to just kind of take it easy the last couple holes, make sure he didn't make a mistake, and get out of there with the win. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot we can take away from last week. Nothing against Fowler, but the old pitch and putt contest, I want to see it in a more difficult course before I'm ready to buy all the way back in. I didn't have a big, huge, massive, earth-shattering DFS week, but super proud of that. Somebody going 7 under through 7 holes call on the show last week. Unfortunately, I did not have it being Robert Streb. So, and then, Mitchell, I think maybe did it the second day, but yeah, lots of birdies. And when your guys weren't making birdies, you could tilt the pars at that course. But anything else to take away from last week, or just move along?
Yeah, nothing else really. Fun week. Those no cuts are always so tough for me. I don't know what it is, but I tend to have more success in the cut events, and we got another no cut this week. So hopefully I can turn that around a little bit. Did you have any sweats? Good lineups?
I didn't. I mean, I had a couple decent lineups, and all I played was like the $10 or something. I didn't do any high stakes stuff last week, just with the uncertainty with that course. And I think I had one finish around 100th or something, but nothing that really had a chance. So it was one of those weeks where you just chalk it up and move on. I didn't lose everything. I didn't win much, so you just move on to the next week. But with the travel to Japan for this week's tournament, and obviously a huge time change and late start, are we concerned about a lot of these guys who did play last week? I mean, that's going to be most of the top guys in the field. Are you concerned about the travel and the quick turnaround?
The longer I've played DFS, the more I've tried to not try to quantify the unquantifiable, if that makes any sense. It's just hard to know. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys, make the travel and have no issues with it whatsoever. This is a quick turnaround. Like you mentioned, they're going to be starting on Wednesday night in terms of, time in America, but I'm not overly concerned about the guys that are traveling.
You choked up there on that. I'll let you catch your breath for a second. Yeah, I think, the natural tendency is you try to take any angle you can get, and to kind of overreact to things like that. And we've all been guilty of it in the past. So I think that's decent advice. That the guys probably aren't going there if they're not going to give it their all. And certainly you shouldn't have to worry about any, like, right before the tournament random withdrawals, because you're going to travel over there,
And what's worse, I mean, playing last week and traveling, or not playing in an event for, more than a month, rust, or, travel, being tired from travel. Right. So
yeah, you can make the narrative fit your whatever you want it to, if you angle it the right way. So with that being said, we've got the ZOZO Championship, which with the COVID pandemic last year was played on a different course in the States. They're going back to Japan to play the same course that was played in the 2019-2020 season when this tournament kind of debuted over there. So if you want to look at course history, don't look at last year. You'd look at the year before, and you'll get the data from this specific course. A little bit of a unique layout this week. So Noto, usually throw it to you. And what do we got in front of us for a course here?
Yeah, so good memories of this event. Tiger Woods won here in 2019. And he did it after bogeying the first 3 holes, ended up winning by 3, which is pretty crazy. At the time, I was playing him every week just because I couldn't not play him. And I was already on withdrawal watch after he bogeyed the first 3 holes, because he just had surgery 10 weeks before that. So that was pretty cool. As far as the course, it is par 70, but it's not your usual par 70. I think the 7,000 yards on the scorecard is a little bit misleading. All of the par 5s are over 580 yards. There's 3 of them compared to, your standard par 70 that has 2 of them. And then the par 4s, they're either all over 485 yards or all under 425 yards. So you're going to get a lot of short par 4s. You're going to get a lot of long par 4s. If you look at the breakdown that Data Golf did, granted, we only have 1 year of sample size to work with, but driving distance played a big factor here in 2019. Pretty much bigger than most events that we look at. Driving accuracy didn't matter all that much. And to me, that makes sense. You're going to want to be, as far as you can off the tee. And when it comes to the par 5s and then the par 4s as well. If you aren't long off the tee, you got to be good with your long irons. 3 of the par 3s are at least 175 yards. So you're going to have a lot of long irons in there. And then the fairways are going to be tough for everyone to hit, only 55% on average the last time it was played here. The greens themselves, they are pretty small. They have the 2 greens on each hole, standard to Japanese golf, which is kind of cool. So they'll definitely mix those up, I believe, throughout the different rounds. And then I was reading the transcript from Will Zalatoris before we hopped on. He's kind of comparing this to Augusta National. Says the place is in pristine condition, a lot of undulations. He says the ball isn't traveling all that far because the air is pretty dense there. So that's definitely interesting. That kind of plays into the bomber narrative that I'm looking at as well. But ultimately, it's a no cut. You're going to want to take some chances. The thing for me, the field, I mean, there's like 5 good guys, and then it is just a huge drop off in terms of talent. So I know we always talk about stars and scrubs in these no cut events, but I think this week it's a great week to go like super stars and scrubs because the difference between the 9K and the 6Ks, I mean, it's really not that much in terms of their long term, talent level. So, what are your thoughts on that, the course, and how you're approaching the week?
Yeah, I mean, Ricky Fowler's 9,800, and he was in the 6Ks just a few weeks ago. He could have got him in the 6Ks. So, I totally agree. I just think that you want to try to get exposure to these golfers at the top this week, and going with that stars and scrubs approach just makes so much sense because the top 4 or 5 guys are who we are used to seeing up at that salary, and then from 8,000 to 9,500. I mean, that's just they all feel pretty significantly overpriced. So yes, I agree on the superstars and scrubs builds, and I think there's some 6K golfers that you can certainly target this week for sure.
Yeah, a lot of Japanese golfers in the field. So if you want to do a little extra research, a lot of those guys have been playing well on the Japanese tour, and a couple other guys that we'll get to, eventually. But I definitely think you can build, 3 stars and 3 scrubs, or 2 and 2, and then 2 mid-range guys for sure.
Yeah, like that, and we'll get into some of those kind of punt values later in the show. I think there are some interesting ones there. I've got one of the aforementioned Japanese golfers that I like this week, and I took a look at some of your stuff before the show. I know that there's a couple guys down there that you like as well. So we'll get into that in a little bit. The course, I do expect the course to play more difficult this time. The first time it played over par the first round slightly. Then the last 3 rounds, it played super easy. But that was because a massive storm rolled through before the second round. In that second round, one of the par 4s they played as like a 140-yard hole, and they kept it as a par 4. So there were like 30 eagles.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So don't get fooled by the scoring. It's not going to be what we saw last week by any means. They're not really expecting rain this week. I think maybe one day there's a chance of rain. So it's probably going to play around par on average. Definitely will be trickier without these soft conditions that we saw last time. So just a word of warning if you're comparing to the scoring from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I like that note. And one other thing, I mean, even with those 3 easy scoring days, it still was the 15th hardest course on tour that year. So we could be looking at a much tougher test. Yeah, I like that call a lot,
especially with the field being pretty weak. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it played over par on average. So we'll see, but don't expect another birdie fest this week. So, all right, let's start breaking it down here. We'll get into it. We mentioned there's just a handful of names at the top: Morikawa, Schauffele, Zalatoris, Matsuyama. Those are the usuals. Tommy Fleetwood cracks the 10K mark on DraftKings as well. So how are you parsing out that top 5? Obviously, we want to try to get some exposure to some of these guys.
It's hard to go wrong with either of the guys at the very top. Collin Morikawa didn't play well on Friday last week, still almost won. That's how talented he is. When he gets locked in with those irons, he's going to have a birdie opportunity on most holes. And he's obviously one of the better, accurate drivers on tour too. So hitting a lot of fairways, hitting a lot of greens, that's going to work most places. He's one of those guys that long-term putting doesn't look great, but he's very hit or miss with the putter. He can go out and gain 5 strokes putting. When he does, he usually wins. So I have no issue with him up there. Xander is going to be my favorite guy. He's number 1 in my model by quite a large margin. Won the Olympics in Tokyo. His grandparents are Japanese, so he's got a lot of ties to the area. He's obviously been the king of no-cut events throughout his career. So a lot to like with him. Doesn't have a weakness in his game. Tends to play difficult course as well. So if you want to play into that narrative, I certainly don't mind it. And then have some interest in Will Zalatoris. Just continues to grind out some pretty good finishes. He did miss the cut his last time out, but he ended up gaining strokes ball striking. So not overly concerned about that. Hideki obviously is going to have, the home crowd behind him. He's probably got, more experience than most at this course. And then we have differing opinions on Tommy Fleetwood. In the survey, we kind of had opposite answers. I'm picking Tommy to at least contend this week. I like him quite a bit. For me, anytime you get him away from America, he tends to play really well. If you look at his numbers on the European Tour from this season, 2021, number one in strokes gained per round, more than anyone else on the entire PGA Tour, and that includes some big names like Rory and all those other guys. So for me, simple flow chart.
That's not Asia though. That's Europe.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. But he does have a good record at the WGC HSBC and some of the other Asian events that they've played. So I like Tommy. I love that he's only 7% owned. Anytime you get under 10% for a guy above 10K, you're just going to get natural leverage on the field. And so, yeah, I'm playing some Tommy. It'll probably bite me, but yeah, I like him. I love the ownership.
I'll take Fleetwood over Fowler. I don't know how much that's saying, but I don't know. I might come around to that if he's still gonna be that low owned. I think Zalatoris. I mean, right now we've only got Zalatoris at like 10, 11, so I think that's a nice steal as well. Schauffele's my favorite. Not gonna get a lot of argument there, but I'll try to get as much Schauffele, Morikawa, Matsuyama. I mean, I'll try to be overweight on those guys with the stars and scrubs, superstars and scrubs type builds that we talked about at the top of the show.
I'm a little confused by the ownership. Doesn't it seem like all these guys should be 15 to 30%?
It seems like, yeah, maybe they're a little light. And maybe we're a little high on some of the mid-range guys like the, list at 7,900 and Schenk at 8,200. We've got all those guys at like similar ownership numbers. I think more people will come around to the stars and scrubs builds than maybe what we have projected in our tools right now, but I'll pass that feedback along. That's just my opinion. I'm not the ownership expert by any means. So Trey does a great job with that. So I'll defer to him if he's thinks his numbers, right as it stands now are pretty good. Then, I'm inclined to believe it. So. All right, let's go. It starts to dip already. And once we get into the 9Ks, like Neiman, you've mentioned it many times on the show. We just don't see the upside enough from him. I am not touching Fowler at 9,800. Great story, great job last week. I want to see it a little more before I play him at double digit ownership and that price. Norin, like all these guys feel way overpriced. Siwoo Kim, not in the best of form. Not playing him right now. Van Rooyen hasn't done enough lately to deserve the 9,500 price tag. So, like, I think Keegan Bradley and McNeely are like my favorites in the 9Ks, but that's just way too expensive for them when they're only, $1,000 less than the Morikawas and the Matsuyamas of the world. So I don't think you play any of these guys in a cash game build, but I don't mind Keegan in tournaments. He has the course record here from the last time. But it's hard to get excited about that 9K range.
Yeah, make a great point. Just compare the guys, 10K and above, and you just have no part of this for cash games or single entry. So agree with you. I mean, Neiman, he's got a fine floor, but some of that is kind of taken away in a no cut event. So I don't love him at the ownership. You mentioned Ricky Fowler. I gave him a 10% boost in my model, and the ratings are out of 100, and he's still rating out as the 16th best play, and he's the 7th most expensive. So I don't think I'll be playing any Ricky. I'm still rooting for him. I agree with Norn and Siwoo. I don't know, man. I mean, Keegan's probably the best guy, T13 here in 2019. You mentioned he's got the course record. I like that a little bit. He's a good ball striker. I'm sure he's going to miss a ton of putts, but I don't believe they're shot trackers. So at least you don't have to see the missed putts. You just see the bogey show up on the scorecard. So, yeah, I think Keegan's my favorite. Grillo, he just no upside for him too. He's misgotten 6 of his last 11, and he's lost strokes putting in 10 of them. It's just hard to trust those type of guys. Tringali continues to rate out well for me, but I like him in those weak fields where he doesn't have a lot of competition. So, yeah, give me a little bit of Keegan, and that's pretty much it.
I laughed because here was the buy round data from last week, because I played some Grillo last week at a very cheap price point. So round 1, he was minus 4.1 strokes putting. That was last in the field. Round 2, he was minus 0.7 of a stroke putting. So that was slightly below average. Round 3, he was minus 0.8 of a stroke putting. So through 3 rounds, he was still near the bottom of the field in putting for the week. And then he gained 4.1 strokes on Sunday putting. It was best in the field for the day and shot 11 under par. Like that's that. If he can do that for a tournament, just do it for like 2 rounds or do it for 1 round and then have the rest be reasonably okay. Like he gained 4 strokes putting on Sunday and still lost strokes putting for the tournament. That's just, it blows my mind.
Play him in Showdown.
If I only played him in Showdown, I'd be guaranteed to pick the wrong day. But again, he's 9,100.
Speaking of Showdown, so I never get Morikawa right. I've played him in Showdown maybe 20 times. I played him round 2 Showdown. Then I was like, okay. I think he shot even par. Everyone else was shooting, low 60s, and then he backs it up with something like 20 under par on the weekend. So, yeah, we all have those guys. Patrick Reed for you. Morikawa, for whatever reason, I can't get him right.
I've coming around to Patrick Reed because I've just been fading him lately, and it's been working out. So we're back on okay terms there. So, yeah, I mean, all those guys feel super expensive. Even Tringali at 9,200, just tough to. I'll sprinkle in those guys at the lower end of the 9K range in GPPs, but there's really no case to be made to absolutely love them. Though I do like Keegan's potential, as far as having some upside out of that group, and probably a good time to maybe pass along our prize picks for the week. So again, you can check out prizepicks.com or download their app, and you can see some of the picks here that we're giving out this week, and you can use promo code Grinders for a 100% deposit bonus match up to your first $100. Again, prizepicks.com, and we've both thrown some picks out there this week. So we've reversed roles. I took 2 unders this week, which is normally the Noto approach. And Noto's got an over on his. So I'll pass it to you in a second. But I like Matsuyama under 16.5 and Keegan under 22.5. I think those are pretty favorable in just a, 78 golfer field. You can put those as a flex play. You only need to get one of the 2 right to double your money. Or you can try to get them both right, and then you triple up your money. So on, you can get $60 back off of $20. So Matsuyama under 16.5, Keegan under 22.5 is what I like this week. And Noto, what you got?
Yeah, I like both of those. I'm going to go down with the Tommy ship this week. I'm going to go under 18.5 for his finishing position. And then Siwoo Kim, he's just been all over the place. The last 2 events, he's finished nearly dead last. So I don't mind taking a shot on him going over 21.5. But for the record, anytime I do an over or a miscut, hot take on somebody, they end up finishing in the top 5. So if you like Siwoo this week, good news for you. But I do like this little flex play that they have. I mean, if you get one right, you get half your money back. Get them both right, you double up a little bit. So you just got to hit one of 2. How easy is that,
Yeah, that's maybe that's the kicker. It's just, that's easy. But try it out. Prizepicks.com. Again, promo code Grinders, get 100% deposit bonus with your first deposit. So check them out. All right, now we get into the 8Ks where it really starts getting fun. Johnny Vegas was the top value play for a lot of people last week. Now Vegas, I should say. Now he's up to 8,900 this week. CT Pan's getting some love. KH Lee's getting some love. Like, we've got all these guys in the mid-teens for ownership, and it just, I don't know. It's hard to get super excited about it. Kind of like Hoffman at 8,500, but that's just, it's kind of a lukewarm take more than anything. Anything stand out for you in here?
The model loves Hoffman. Has him like as a top 5 play this week. So I don't know what to do there. The form hasn't been particularly good for the last couple months, but he obviously went on that huge run in the spring. He's a guy, pretty good total driver, makes a ton of birdies over the last 75 rounds. He's made more birdies than anyone in this field. So I do like that take quite a bit. I like Vegas. He's one of the longer drivers on the PGA Tour. He's number 1 in strokes gained off the tee in this field over the last 75 rounds. And he's quietly gained on approach in 8 straight events. So a guy that's a bomber that is gaining strokes with the irons, I'll take my chances with his putter. Agree with you on CT Pan, KH Lee. They just feel overpriced and overowned, and that's kind of a bad combo for me. I'm willing to eat the chalk when I think they're underpriced, but I think both of them are overpriced. I know they're both playing well. Carlos Ortiz is interesting, at least coming off of a T25 last week. Another guy very good off the tee in terms of distance, and he's gained strokes on approach in 9 of his last 10. So he's kind of fitting that same mold as Johnny Vegas. He just got to putt well, and he's a guy that played pretty well at the Olympics, if I remember correctly. And then shout out Carlos Ortiz.
That rings a bell too.
I know he was in the mix on the first couple of days. He might have fallen out a little bit.
I can't find the leaderboard. Google's being a little slow. Anyway, yeah, he was in the mix. I like that call.
And then shout out to Doug in the chat. I like the Lonzo Griffin call. His form has been up and down, but the stats have all been good. The underlying stats look good. T6 at the Shriners his last time out. A guy that can putt well, a guy that's pretty long off the tee, a guy that's good on approach. So if the course doesn't play too difficult and everyone's able to hit these greens, I think he's a guy that could definitely be in contention. If everyone starts missing the greens, he might be in a little bit of trouble. He's one of the worst in the field around the green. But I like Lonzo. He's going to be fading Palmer. His best finish since April is T26. No thanks there. Shank's interesting, but it definitely feels a little bit price shock there at 8,200. And then I'll have some Wallace, just a guy that is comfortable playing all over the world. I kind of like those European Tour guys and the Japanese Tour guys a little bit more than just some of the regular PGA Tour scrubs.
Ortiz was tied for third heading into the final round at the Olympics. He shot 7 over and finished 42nd. So Sunday was not great. Apparently you didn't play him on Sunday Showdown or that one would stick in the brain. Yeah, I didn't realize that too. Anyway, bad final round, really good first 3 days. That was a couple months ago, but that was probably just pressing at the end there after all the guys were making a run. Rory Sabatini made his big run. But I don't mind him. I don't mind him in GPPs for sure. Agreed on Palmer, probably off him for now. I've played Shank the last few weeks, but that was when he was cheaper and much less owned than he is right now. Probably off of him at, what looks to be somewhat chalky. In fact, he might be the most popular guy in the 8Ks. Kind of agree with you on pivoting to somebody like Wallace. Don't mind him in an event like this. Anything else in the 8,000s?
Model always likes Chris Kirk, and I never play him, so I don't know. Do with that what you will.
Yeah, I never play him either, though he's probably not a terrible play relative to all the guys around him. All right, going to the 7Ks. I was looking at recent numbers. Garrett Cago's been really bad. Surprised me to see how bad he's been lately. Streb, last week's first couple round hero. Pat Perez is pretty cheap at 7,300. But again, not a ton to love in the 7Ks. It looks like Harry Higgs is going to be the most popular option there. I wrote him up, not knowing that he would be the chalkiest, but I suppose he's fine at 7,500. Had a pretty good week last week. But anything sticking out to you in the 7Ks before we get to the punts?
Not a ton. If I'm building one lineup, I think I'm going to go superstars, super scrubs, just play 3 guys in the 6Ks. So not a ton of exposure to this range or the 8Ks or the 9Ks, to be honest, from single entry. But shout out to PJ Splits, Ron, who does our splits tool here at Rotogrinders. He has a strokes gained on courses in Asia, and a couple names definitely stand out. Pat Perez was 5th on the list. He's only 7,300, so a guy I wouldn't mind. He played here in 2019. Wasn't great, but he at least knows the course a little bit, and he did show some live towards the end of last season. And I don't know if you saw, did you see the last event in Vegas? Did you see what he did on his last hole?
I did not.
So he was like 1 or 2 shots behind the cut line. I think he needed to birdie or eagle. He hit his approach in the water and just walked off on 18.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did see that. I remember that now. I laughed because I saw the withdrawal and I went to the shot tracker and I saw that, oh, he just walked off the last hole.
And I had him in showdown, so I didn't get the bogey points. So that was great.
Ended up with more points.
Yeah, some guy messaged me and said if he would have got the double, he would have moved up in cash, and instead the guy ahead of him stayed there.
That sucks. We've all been on both sides of that coin every now and again.
Yeah.
It's just funny how much stuff in DFS can change on, like, you think of how much NFL money changed hands at the end of the Cowboys game last week, with a
Yeah.
touchdown in overtime to popular play. Yeah, it's just, and I'm sure there's somebody in there now that's eating at them, because of how much they lost on one little play like that. But it's part of what makes it fun too. Doug Gim at 7K exactly. He can't putt, but his ball striking numbers are still really good. And at 7K in this field, I don't really think there's a whole lot of difference between Doug Gim and guys that are priced like $2,000 higher than Doug Gim. So I'm fine with Gim at 7K. He's probably one of my favorite values, along with Perez, who you just talked about there. Anything else you like above 7,000?
I like Takumi Kanaya. He is the 76th ranked golfer in the world. He's coming off of 7 straight top 20s on the Japanese tour, and he's only 50-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, which is easily the lowest odds of anyone priced below 8,000. So they definitely are playing it safe with him. I think he's got some upside. He's probably very familiar with the course, so I don't mind taking some shots on him.
Yeah, I don't mind that as well. Shocked that the odds have gotten that low, but Kanaya is one. And then the guy that I tagged up just because he's cheaper is Ryosuke Kinoshita, who has, I believe, 5 straight top 10s on the Japanese tour as well. And he's only 6,200 on DraftKings. He's 7,600 on FanDuel. So basically min salary on both of those sites. But I did kind of give a head nod in my article to Kanaya as well. So those two guys at 6,200 and 7,200 would be my favorites if you're looking for the kind of sneaky under the radar guys that generally play on the Japanese tour. All right, let's move into the said 6K range. Obviously, Kinoshita is my favorite. Let's see. I don't think I wrote up. Gam I wrote up, but he's exactly 7,000. I know you got at least one or two guys you like in the 6Ks. So who are you looking at in there?
Yeah, a couple guys that play primarily on the Japanese tour, but aren't Japanese. I got Scott Vincent. He's played pretty much exclusively in Japan the last 8 months. He played well at the Olympics, ended up finishing T16, which was in Tokyo. He has 2 wins in his last 6 starts on the Japanese tour, and I believe he is 3rd in the stroke average. They have a site that you can check. You can actually check some of the stats if you want to look at some of those Japanese tour guys. And then all the way at the very bottom, Sean Norris, kind of a similar story, spends most of his time in Europe or in Asia, and 8 straight starts on the Japanese tour, 8 of 8, 7 straight top 20s, and a win during that stretch. And he only got in because Paul Casey ended up withdrawing. He was a late add to DraftKings. I haven't seen if FanDuel added him yet, but I think that's naturally just going to lower his ownership. He's listed at 100-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook, so typically you don't see that from a guy that's placed at the bare minimum.
Let me check check FanDuel right now. Was that Norris or Vincent or who?
Yeah, Norris.
Yeah, Norris. FanDuel added him just today, so he is 8,300 on FanDuel.
Although I noticed Yahoo has where did it go? Vincent at $34, which was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, he's above the average salary per golfer, and Ricky Fowler is $24 on Yahoo, which, as much as I want to hate on Fowler, at $24 on Yahoo, if you're playing over there, you can go ahead and get him into your lineups and probably feel okay with it in this type of field. So I knew I had seen that Vincent was expensive somewhere. So I was just looking at FanDuel and realized it wasn't there, and I knew it wasn't DraftKings. So put that together. But anyway, yes, FanDuel has added Norris and also Naoto Nakanishi, who was the other late replacement. So anything else you like as far as punts? Looks like we've got Sung Kang getting some ownership. I can probably take or leave that. Troy Merritt, Roger Sloan, some other guys. Otherwise, it's pretty spread out down here.
Yeah, pretty spread out. One guy that I was surprised when I was looking at his stats is Wesley Bryan. For the longest time, he was like the worst driver on tour. He would average like 260 and never hit a fairway, but he's 20th in this field in strokes gained, 20th in this field in driving distance. So he's added a ton of distance off the tee. We know the wedges are good. So he's worth a flyer at min salary. Yuki Inamori is also 6,000. He's 8 of 8 in his four straight top 20s on the Japanese tour, and he's only 80-1 on the DK Sportsbook. So if you're looking at some of these value plays, I don't mind just kind of trusting the odds and putting your faith in the bookmaker. And he's only 80-1, which is easily the lowest below 7K. So don't mind looking at that. Anyone else that you like?
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, this field thins out in a hurry. And again, we've only got 78 golfers, but I think we've kind of covered most of them that are going to be in my player pool. So like those calls on some of the guys that are at shorter odds that are still pretty cheap in DFS, like a lot of their odds are similar to the golfers in that kind of 8K range. So you could build a lineup that like if you built a truly balanced lineup, it's going to look horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can make a build with, say, two of the 5 guys above 10K on DraftKings. Like if you start with Schauffele and Matsuyama or Schauffele and Fleetwood, and that gives you 71, 75 per golfer. Like you can do that with some scrubs, some of those 6K golfers, and then get one mid-range guy. And, I think that's probably the best approach to take this week with a lot of builds.
Yeah. Oh, one other name, Kyle Stanley. So he's gained ball striking in 9 straight, like a bunch of strokes too. Guess what his best finish is during that stretch?
I think you mentioned this to me before. Is like 25th or something?
41st. And I think he's got like 6 miscuts during that stretch too. But on PJ Splits' numbers from Asia, he is 6th best in strokes gained per round in Asia. So might be a guy.
You were going to say 6th in putting in Asia, and I wasn't going to buy it.
I don't think they have putting splits since they're all. It'd have to be like the putts per
hole. Yeah, he's not 6th in that either. But everything else can make up for it. Put him on the Grillo lineups, and you can, like you say, you don't have to tilt the putts.
Yeah, him, Grillo, and Keegan. That's a great start.
Well, if you like this show, we encourage you, if you're watching us live or you're watching us later on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You get alerts about all our great video content. Hit the like button, thumbs up, or the thumbs down if you want to. The algorithm will take it. Whether you hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down button. As our buddy Blender would say, let me see the thummy thumbs. And we appreciate you checking us out. And if you like what you see, check out Rotogrinders Premium. This is a great time to check out the premium package. You get more bang for your buck with the combo package, which includes pretty much every sport except NASCAR. You've got football, you've got NBA, you've got NHL that just started up, you've got golf going on. It's just the busiest time of the year. We've got college football, tons of stuff on the sports calendar this time of year. So now is the chance. You can click the link in the description, or we'll have our producer Eli drop a link in the chat so you can check that out later. Get you $10 off your first month of Rotogrinders Premium. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it a wrap. Pretty ugly field this week, and limited options to deal with for DFS. But we'll be back next week, and let's see. They continue the Asian swing here for a few weeks, but now the schedule's all messed up.
Not the Puerto Rico, but the other one.
Bermuda.
Yeah.
So
and they got a sponsor this year. The
Butterfield Bermuda Championship. So I stand corrected. I thought that they were staying. They're not doing any of the other Asian events. I'll be darned. I swear I saw that, but apparently I was dreaming. Because after that, it's Mayakoba in Mexico, and then back to the Houston Open and the RSM to close out the year before Thanksgiving. So they're not doing the WGC or any of the other events over there. Huh? I'll be darned.
What event I miss is the Cimb Classic. I love that course.
Yeah, that just disappeared too. Like I swear I saw they were playing some of those. It's a heck of a realistic dream I had, because it's nowhere to be found on the schedule. Doesn't say canceled. It's just gone. Yeah, you learn something every day. All right. Well, next week, not another event on the Asian swing. The Butterfield Bermuda Championship. We'll be back for that next week, followed by Mayakoba, Houston Open, RSM Classic, take you to the holiday break. The longest break that we'll get from golf, which is still only about 5 or 6 weeks, the winter break, which always comes at a good time for those of us providing content for a bunch of sports. But until then, we got 4 or 5 weeks left to make some money in DFS golf, and hopefully we can help you do that. So for Noto, for our producer Eli, I'm Justin. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next week. Take care.